Hi guys and welcome back to Real Sniper Tactics. In this episode, we'll be covering moving as a squad. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Alex. I'm a former British Army sniper who served in both Afghanistan and Iraq, and now working as a private security contractor and part-time DayZ YouTuber. Believe it or not, moving from point A to point B is probably when you're in the most danger. So we're going to cover how to do this as tactically as possible. Before we jump into the video though, I'm going to ask you to hit the subscribe button and drop a like on the video, as it's the only way to show the YouTube algorithm that you enjoy this content. 85% of you who watched my last video are unsubscribed. We've just hit 5,000 subscribers and we're on a grind to hit 10,000. So hit the sub button and join us in our Discord down in the description. Don't forget to also hit the notification bell, as this means you'll never miss an upload or stream. First up, we're going to cover how to approach an enemy position while not under fire, such as approaching an enemy base or arriving at Northwest Airfield. This tactic is called bounding Overwatch, or it can sometimes be referred to as moving with 1 foot on the ground. It can be used as a squad of 2 or more and is the safest way to cover ground. Number 1 or pair 1, if working as a squad, will set off moving towards the location, using all the other tactics in this series, such as intervisibility, contouring and covered routes, while number 2 or pair 2 stays static in a good position with visible arcs onto the target and likely enemy firing positions. Pair 2 will scan all these locations while pair 1 moves. Once pair 1 has pushed up a reasonable distance, making sure to stay in line of sight of the Overwatch, they will go firm. At this point, pair 2 will move while pair 1 scans. Pair 2 will follow the same route, or if safe to do so, an alternate route past pair 1. This will repeat until you either end up in contact with the enemy or you reach your desired location and move into a direct assault or clearance. Points to note while conducting a bounding Overwatch. If not using the proven route, the second pair may run into enemies not discovered on the initial push. However, the use of an alternative route means you can cover more ground and you aren't as bunched up should you get into contact. If one of the pairs only has a long range weapon and one only has a short range weapon, it is perfectly acceptable to make one pair do the pushing and the other do the scanning. This means when pair 1 goes firm, having pushed through the unknown ground, pair 2 will simply push up to pair 1 instead of past them. This is called bumping. Next up, we have how to move while under fire, or bounding and peeling. When you first get into contact, it's important to quickly establish a baseline. This is where all squad members are in a rough line facing the enemy, firing back. Obviously, do not stand in the open, get into cover, but so long as you're all firing in the enemy in a rough line, this is acceptable. From a baseline, you can decide what to do. If you decide to take the fight, you need to close with the enemy. Pair 1 will push forwards a short distance, while pair 2 lay down fire at the enemy. Even if the enemy ducks out of sight, you should continue to fire through bushes into likely flank routes and positions from which the enemy may re-peek from. Pair 1 will then go firm and begin firing while pair 2 bounds past them, and so on until you reach the enemy position. It's important to note that if one of you gets a stoppage or needs to reload while firing, you inform the bounding pair. That pair should then stop immediately, go firm and begin firing while the pair moves, clearing the stoppage or reloading to ensure a conservation of momentum. If you are fighting a much larger force, then you may decide to withdraw from the fight. This tactic works exactly the same, but this time in reverse. Instead of bounding towards the enemy, you bound backwards until you are out of sight, and then run as fast as you can to create as much distance as possible. Should you find yourself in an open field when engaged, you may want to consider moving to more favourable ground by peeling. All of you will remain in a baseline firing, and someone will make the decision to peel left or right. Once that's decided, the furthest man from that direction of travel will begin to peel. If peeling left, the furthest right squad mate moves first. If moving right, the furthest left moves first. ensure you move behind your squad mates firing, not in front of them, to avoid any risk of blue on blue. Should someone in the baseline get a stoppage or an empty mag, that person should immediately tell the rest of the squad. If possible, the peeling squad mate should only peel to the individual not firing and take up his position, while they then move off peeling while clearing said stoppage or reload. Bounding and peeling can be combined. It's possible to peel out of a field and into a wood line to then begin bounding towards the enemy, just as it's possible to bound away from an enemy and then peel out of sight. This is called breaking contact. Once the rest of the squad has peeled out of view, the final person should give a massive rate of fire at the enemy before he turns and runs behind his squad. This means that the enemy receives one last barrage of fire at them before they begin their hunt for you, giving you that extra bit of time to put some distance between you. Lastly, we're going to cover Cadence Firing, or how to move when approaching close to the enemy. Once you're within a short distance of the enemy, you'll begin to move directly towards them, firing as you do. You will begin to fire slowly at first as you approach them. The British Army Tactical Aid Memoir states that suppression is defined as one round within 1 meter of the enemy every 6 seconds. While this doesn't transfer perfectly to DayZ, it's worth noting that you don't need a massive rate of fire to keep their head down and in cover. The closer you get to the enemy, you're going to pick up the rate of fire until they either peek you and are instantly shot, or you round their cover while firing and shoot them dead. It's important to keep an eye on your ammo state. The last thing you want to do is run out of ammo just as you round the corner, only to get a stoppage as you come face to face with the enemy. It's called a dead man's clip for a reason. Hopefully you've learned something new today. Feel free to check out the other videos in this series and in the playlist down below if you've not watched them yet, or even as a remind and revise. Not all the tactics taught will work every time. The point of these videos is to teach you some real world tactics rather than constantly changing metas. Take what works for you and ignore what doesn't. Good luck out there, and I'll see you in the next one.